Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we're going to be trying a 6x6 Sudoku today by Kennet's dad, who's been making waves recently with some extraordinary puzzles. This is called Pair of Docs, which I think is meant to be a sort of homophone for paradox, although I could be wrong. Very short rule set today, and as you can see, not a great deal of grid furniture to deal with, and apparently the story behind this puzzle is it used to be more difficult, and the way solvers were getting through it was by brute force. So I guess that's just heavy bifurcation, and that is not intended. There is a logical way through it, and that's going to be my task to find it in today's video. So this is what I'll attempt for you, at least, in a moment or two's time. I've got some big news before that. I've got a few things to tell you about. I will start by, at last, being able to tell you that the Apple version of our new Fog of War app is finally out. So it's been available on Android and Steam for many days already. Finally, our app developer managed to get it through the Apple gateways. It went out live last night, so I know many of you have already managed to get hold of it. For those of you who aren't aware, this is a pack of that's revealing other news too quickly. Here we go. We've got so this is an example puzzle. They're all Fog of War puzzles. They are all by some of the great and the good of the Sudoku community, people like Phistomefel and Qodec and Marty, Sears. It really is quite something. Lots of you have been writing into us, lots of you enjoying it, so do check it out. You will, I think, enjoy it, and it is finally there. Let's do the other picture next. This is called... Oh, it's not in the right place. No, that's a disaster. How do I move it? I'm not very good at the Caterdokupillar. This is an extraordinary thing. It's the brainchild. Oh, it's not. It's a bit too big, isn't it? It's the brainchild of Menace. And this thing, I don't know if you can see it because I mean there are so many puzzles. There are nearly 190 6x6 Sudoku puzzles in this picture. And we're going to try and stream ourselves solving it. I don't know how many streams it will take. I've got no clue how difficult the puzzles are. Obviously 6x6 puzzles, they can be easier, but they can be monstrously difficult as well. And an absolute wealth of constructors have contributed to this. So it's a fabulous thing that Menace has made. Menace and his friends have made. And yeah, we're going to stream it. I don't know the day yet. I'm just waiting to hear from Mark. I think it might be at the weekend, although we were a bit worried if we did it at the weekend, nobody could possibly want to watch Sudoku videos or live streaming of Caterdokupillar solving at the weekend. But we'll announce it on Twitter when we know, at Cryptic Cracking. But it probably, where are we? It might be Friday, might be Saturday, might be Sunday, not sure yet. But we're looking forward to giving it a try. And the only other thing to mention before I do the birthdays is over on Patreon, we have got my solve of this puzzle, which is a very, very complicated creature indeed. Even more complicated, I might argue, than the Caterdokupillar. This is called Marty Didn't Call You Back because he had the Wrogn number. It's by Lake. Lake has now watched my solve and seemed to approve of it, so that's a relief. It took me nearly 2 hours to crack this. Everything you enter has to be wrong. Quite a challenge. That's over on Patreon, as well, of course, as the Sudoku Skunk Works Sudoku Hunt, where you can win, amongst other things, the opportunity to make a Sudoku video with me. Anyway, let's have a look at the birthdays. I've got a few birthdays today. Someone noted the other day, when I had an absolute plethora of birthdays to do, that we are approximately 9 months after Valentine's Day. I don't know what can you mean by that, but it struck me as possibly a thing. Anyway, let's go. Alice, it's your birthday today. I know this because your boyfriend Aidan has written to us, tells us that you love Fog of War Sudokus. Check out the app. And you are having chocolate cake, although I was given no details on exactly what sort of chocolate cake you were getting, Alice. But I hope you have a great birthday today, and the chocolate cake is suitably iced. Next, over there in Portugal, Carlos, it's your birthday, and I know this because your best friend Isabel wrote to us and described you as an amazing human being. So Carlos, I hope you have an absolutely great day today. Portugal is a wonderful country. I've been there a few times, and I'm not sure about the chocolate cake, but I hope you get a good one. Next, Denise. Denise, it's your birthday, and your friend Deddy wrote to us, as he often does on your birthday. And I quite like this next bit of the message. I can reveal that Deddy has left you a chocolate treat for your birthday in your freezer. He doesn't think you've discovered it yet. It's in your freezer. Check it out. Yeah, I feel I've sort of given a gift there. And Deddy also sent me actually a picture of your most recent hike. Have I got it here? Yeah. This is British Columbia. Is it Lake Juno? No, Jade Lake. Jade Lake in British Columbia, Canada. And apparently it rained the whole time that you were there. But it was still wonderful. It does look incredibly pretty, I have to say. Very, very. I like things like that. So anyway, Denise, have a great birthday. I hope the chocolate treat is worth it. Next, Eliza. Eliza, it's your birthday today over there in Finland. I know this because your husband Hamish wrote to us and told us that you watch the videos on your television. I think a lot of people do that actually, rather than on a device. I think it probably makes the numbers easier to see. But Eliza, I hope you have a great birthday today with chocolate cake, of course. And finally, Matt. Matt, it's your birthday, and I know this because your wife Jen wrote in and said that we should do a shout out for you, and I should wish you chocolate cake. Well, I do. But I don't know whether you're getting any. I don't know whether that meant that Jen was going to rustle up a chocolate cake. I hope, anyway, I hope, Matt, that your day is good. And I hope, obviously, you get a suitably top quality chocolate cake as a result of my wishes. Anyway, with that said and done, let's have a look at Pair of Dogs by Kennet's dad. And I will read you the rules, which won't take long, actually. Normal Sudoku rules apply, which I guess means we've got to put the digits 1 to 6 in every row, every column, and every sort of rectangle. Once each, obviously. I can't remember if I said that. Orthogonally adjacent digits cannot be consecutive. So, if that digit there is a 2, that's going to have a lot of effects, isn't it? Because that is going to stop 1 or 3 going into any of those squares, because an orthogonal connection between cells basically means the cell with which it would make a domino. That might be a nice way to describe an orthogonal connection. So this square is not orthogonally connected to the 2 because it is diagonally connected, and that's sort of the opposite in Sudoku terms. Now, digits along a line form a set of non-repeating consecutive digits. These digits can appear in any order. So if we did work out this square here was a 1, then we would know that these two squares, in fact, that's bizarre. That's actually broken. Oh, I hope that doesn't count as solving. But actually, that's broken, isn't it? I won't explain why. I'm sure you've already understood why. But if this was a 1, the line would have to be filled with 2 and 3 in order to be a consecutive sequence. I can hear that Maverick's just taken off, so we're about to get buzzed by a low-flying aircraft. I apologise for that. And you can't repeat a digit, so if that's a 1, you can't put another 1 on the line. They have to be different digits. Now, the sum of the digits along a diagonal indicated by an arrow sum to x, where x must be determined and is the same sum for all arrows. So if those squares added up to 8, these squares would add up to 8, is what that's saying. So we're going to have to work out what these totals are, and they are going to be the same number. And that's all the rules. Yeah, no ability to scroll in the rules today, so that is all of them. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual, but now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I mean, let's just deal with that. When I put 1 in there, I immediately therefore noticed that this line had to be 1, 2, 3 in some order, but that's impossible because these two squares would be consecutive and they're obviously orthogonally adjacent. So what we're actually learning there is that that digit, what we're learning is that that digit is between the value of those two, which is sort of very strange immediately, isn't it? So that digit can't... Okay, so firstly we can say that digit can't be extreme. It can't be 1 or 6, because 6 would be the same as if we put 1 in there. If this is 6, this would be 4, 5. So this is a middly digit in the context of the puzzle, a 2, 3, 4 or 5. And it has different parity to these two digits, is what I'm noticing. Because imagine this was a 3. Then it must be the middle of the 3-digit sequence on the line in order to ensure that these two aren't consecutive. So these can then be 2 and 4, which are different in parity to this one. So, what that means... Right, okay, so what that means is that this line is the same. Not necessarily the same... not necessarily the same digits, but there's something going on between this line and this line. Right, let's just give this a colour for parity. Whatever the parity of this is, because it sits between the values of these two digits, these are... Oh, that's the most awful choice of colour, sorry. It sits between the parity of these two digits. So I'm going to say that this has green parity and this has grey parity, where grey is a different parity to green. Now, that principle must apply along this line as well. In other words, this because it's the same shape, this digit is whatever its parity is. It's the middle of its line. It's the middle value of the line's value. Again, if this was 1, 2 and 3, this would have to be the 2 in order to allow this to be the 1 and the 3 and not to be consecutive. So what that means... Yeah, but the grey parity by Sudoku now, I mean, it's outrageous. I'm only 12 minutes into the video, I'm already doing Sudoku. But whatever these two digits are, where do they go in this box? And at least one of them has to be on the top here, doesn't it? We could put one grey digit here. If this was 2 and this was a 1-3 pair, I could hide one of 1 and 3 here, but the other one would be here. And we know these two have the same parity. So those two are both grey. And this square is also green and is also middly. So these squares are from 2, 3, 4, 5. These squares are the opposite parity. So the green parity, the green digits now, because they can't be extreme, are either 3 and 5 or 2 and 4. Now, if they're 2 and 4, hang on, if they're 2 and 4, the digits on the lines are going to be 1, 3, and 3, 5. And there is going to be a common digit. Yes, okay, so that's going to cause all of one parity to live in... Yeah, okay. I'm not being very articulate here. I'm just trying to understand how it works. It might be easier if I show you. But I think what's going to happen now is that these two cells are grey. Let me try and explain why. Let's just go for an example. Let's say that this was 3 and 5, because we know these are the same parity. So they're either 3, 5 or they're 2, 4. Now if they're 3, 5, again, we know on each line this is the middly digit. So this would be a 4 and a 6, and this would be a 2 and a 4. And you can see that the complement, or the digits in grey, they're all even, but they are not all the same. in the sense that this is 4, 6, this is 2, 4. So by Sudoku, what's going to happen is that this is going to be a 6 in this example. It's going to be the final even digit, isn't it? And the same is, it works exactly the same way if we make these 2 and 4. One of these dominoes will be 1, 3, one will be 3, 5, and by Sudoku, you're going to get the excess odd digit going into these squares. So what we are now learning is that we can complete the colouring. The colouring has to look like this, but we don't know what these digits are. But we do know that these are different parity. And that's obviously, I hope that's clear. Obviously there are 3 digits of each parity within each box. 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6. And this is either 3, 5 or 2, 4, but you don't know the order, do you? What does that mean? Do we know the parity of that one somehow? We don't seem to know anything about down here. How on earth are you going to... How are we going to ever extend this? I think it must be something to... I must know something about this diagonal that I don't realise I know. Now, that's all very well, but until I actually know it, how do I... Is there some way I know the parity of this? Sorry, I know I've stopped talking, but that's because I am totally and utterly not understanding this. These are the same parity. These are the same parity. That digit goes in one of those 2 squares. But these never are affected. The order within green or within grey is never affected by the orthogonally adjacent rules cannot be consecutive rule, obviously, because they're the same parity, so they can... There's not... I don't think... I'm certainly not aware of any generic pattern that lives with a non-consecutive grid. Let me just think about that. I'm just going to take a box that's got nothing in it. Let's just put a 2 in here. Because what I'm thinking there is I can see that if I put whatever digit, especially if I put a middly digit in this position, I'm forcing the digits that are consecutive with it to be exactly those, because this has 3 orthogonal connections from the 2. This square, and this square, and none of those 3 digits can be 1 or 3. So that digit now can't be 4, because 3 is in one of those squares, so 4 would be in one of those squares. And that could be 5 or 6. Now, it doesn't have to be 5, though, does it? It doesn't. I was wondering whether or not there was some pattern that forced the parity, because 2 and 4 here are both even, 1 and 3 are both odd. But what's to stop that being a 6? And then this would be 4, 5, and then you don't have the same parity in the rows. And the answer is... No, it's okay. I think it's fine, isn't it? Because then you get, in this domino, if this, say, was 1, that would be 3, so this would be 5 in order to not be 4. So you get 3, 5, 3, 5 in one direction, and 4, 1 in another direction. Which I think is okay. So you don't have to... No. So you don't have to have the orthogonality, or the lack of consecutive orthogonal digits isn't causing this effect. That is caused by the Wren bands. So it's something else. I must be able to know whether this, if I did know this was 3, 5, say, then I know this is 2, 4, 6. I'm so sure I must know the parity of this. And maybe, all right, let's think about it differently. If that's, these are the same. So if that's odd, this is odd, and these are one of each parity. If this is even, and this are two of the same parity, and that would be different parity along this Wren band. So whatever this parity is, this would be different, and these would be the same parity. But if these were odd, say that was odd and that was, so the sum is odd. Let's say that was odd and that was even to achieve that. That would be odd. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It does feel like almost all the time you get parity repeating in the rows here. Because I think whatever this is, these are the same parity. I don't know what that one is. Just have a think about this more. Let's go with 4. If that's 4, does it have any effect on what we did before? Now 3 and 5 have to be here. That has to be 1. Oh, okay. That's quite weird. Yeah, okay. I hadn't realised this. Okay, there is a qualitative difference between 2 and 4. Now, these are the things, these are the knowledge bombs we can talk about on Cracking the Cryptic. I know there's an actual difference between the digits, but in terms of this rule, there is a difference as well. And that is because 4, the digits that are consecutive with 4 are 3 and 5, and neither of those digits is extreme. And that's really interesting, because if this is 4 and this is 3, 5, which it would have to be in order to not have 3, 5 here, the point is that digit is now forced. In a way it wasn't before, because this digit can't now, because 3 and 5, we don't know the order, 3 and 5 are in these squares. Well, now 2 and 6 cannot go in this position. That has to be 1. So these squares would be 2 and 6. And then you're going to get, because you couldn't have 3 next to 2 or 5 next to 6, you're going to have 2, 5 on one side and 6, 3 on the other. So it's modular. It's becoming modular. That's weird. So wherever the 4 is, here or here, you're always going to have, you're going to have a modular pairing. When I say modular, I mean the 1, 4, 7, the same remainder when divided by 3. Or think about your number keypad, as I so often don't. Vertical stripes in number keypad is what we're looking at. That is what you're going to have wherever the 4 lives in this column. But it won't work. Well, I don't care though, do I? Yeah, the other thing you are getting from that is that okay, right. So you do always have striping. Yes, okay. 4 has the same qualities vis-a-vis this funny rule as 3 is something I can see, because 3 is also its neighbours are not extreme. So if we make this 3, 2 and 4 get plonked in there. 2 and 4 are not extreme digits within the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sequence. So what's this digit? Well, it now cannot be 1 and it cannot be 5. So it's 6. 3 and 6, again, vertically modular within a keypad relationship. So these squares are going to be 1 and 5. 5 and 4 can't go together. They are consecutive. 1 and 2 can't go together. So on one side of this, you're going to have 1, 4, and on the other side, which is it's like a shuffling of what we had here when we had 4 in the middle. But you're now going to have 1 and 4 and 2 and 5 vertically. But what I was thinking is let's do the whole column in effect, because you can see that what you've got now is constant parity across the rows. But we just worked out, didn't we, that the way it worked with 4 in the column, wherever 4 goes in the column, it's going to cause a rectangle to arise that's going to be exactly like this. Obviously, this could be upside down, but the point is that within the box, this is what will happen. But now, because the 3 has to go with a 6 and the 4 has to go with a 1, the 2, wherever that goes in the column, cannot go with the 6 digit, which was the option I couldn't rule out before. But it's going to be ruled out by where the 3 and the 4 go in the column. Because now, look, 2, let's not put that digit in, and you'll see exactly what I mean. 2, we said, couldn't be next to 1 or 3. And then we said, 4 couldn't go here, therefore, because it would be then consecutive with 3 on one side or the other. So 4 is in one of these two positions. Now, before we'd understood how 3 and 4 work in the column, this digit was able to be 5 or 6. And we couldn't conclude, therefore, that you always had constant parity along the rows. But because 3 and 4 sort of hypothecate and snaffle, 3 always snaffles the 6 for its box. 4 will always snaffle the 1 for its box. This digit can only be 5 because it would have the option of being 6 otherwise, just looking at the box logic. Now, because we're going to get this pattern somewhere else in the column, the 2 will sit above or below a 5, and 5, 3 and 1, therefore, are all the same parity. So this is huge. This is absolutely huge, because now let's delete everything. Delete all the numbers. And what we have proved now is this. It's because you have horizontal within each box. These 3 digits are always the same parity. So they are always green in this case. These are all the same parity, and then the other parity has to shift over here. So we've sort of we've got a bit better. And now, oh no. Oh, hang on. Now if this was odd plus 2 evens, we'd have odd, and these would be different. Well, we know these are different parity. That's it. Sorry, I'm so daft sometimes. Honestly, my brain just doesn't work. Right. So then we can extrapolate. I don't know whether this is green and this is grey, or the other way round. But of course, because I always know that we get the stripy effect, whatever the parity of this is opposite to the parity of this. So what's the sum of those digits? It's odd. And if the sum of the digits is odd, I can come back here, which is where I was having my problem. I couldn't work out how we were going to know whether this added to an odd or an even number. But now, because in this box it does add to an odd number, the way we achieve oddness here is by having odd green and double even, rather than double odd, which would give us an even number. 2 odd numbers add to an even plus an even, and that would make it even overall, which it can't be because of this. So now green has to be odd, which I meant to equate with orange because it begins with O the same way. And then this is blue, And now we must be off to the races, aren't we? Because these two squares, therefore, are 3 and 5. They are not 2 and 4. And therefore, these digits are the digits on either side of those numbers. So they're 2, 4, and 6. Oh, actually, that's not help. That doesn't help me. Yeah, okay. I'll do this differently then. No, that doesn't work. No, it does work, doesn't it? Okay. Right, I'm going to use my modular pairings to do it now. So do you remember, hopefully you do, because I think I do, when we looked at this column and we worked out how the pairings worked, you got vertical modular dominoes? Well, I'm going to use that then. So this, if it was 3, has to have a digit here that's in the same modular group. It was going to be 6. If this was 5, it was going to be 2. So 4, oh no, this isn't proving anything. All that's proving is 4 is on the line. I already knew that. Oh, bobbin, sorry. They're going to get the same here. Oh. Well, no, that maybe this isn't in. I mean, again, I must have a modular pair here. So if this is 3, this is 6. If this is 5, this is 2. That does give me a 1, 4 pair here. Okay, so what's this? This is consecutive. Oh, we don't know still. We don't know. Whatever this. If this is 1, obviously, then this is 2. That's super useful. But if this is 4, this is 3 or 5. And then we can do the modularity on this. So if this is 2, this is 5. If this is 3, this is 6. If this is 5, this is 2. Oh no! No! And I don't really know what to do with that. Oh, I'm so sorry. What's going on? I don't know. Do I know? I know this is different to this. The only way this is odd numbers, that does put a lot of. This has to be 1. Ah, I see. Okay, I can disprove that. Right, as Maverick flies over. If this is 1, it doesn't work. So orange is wrong, actually, is what we can say. It's very cute. If that's 1, we know this is 2 to be consecutive with 1. We know this digit, therefore, and we know this is odd. Now, what is this number then? It's got to be 4 or 6, doesn't it? And it can be neither. Because 4 and 6 are consecutive with 5. It can't be 2, because that's why I think this line must be here, is to rule that option out. So, well, so this is 4 then, because what we're learning is this cannot be an odd stripe. That's got to be an even stripe. So we get an odd stripe, an odd stripe, an even stripe. This is now a 1. This is therefore got. Oh, it's not. That's got to be 3 or 5. This has got to be 2 or 6. This is 3 or 5. Yeah, okay. We're probably going to have to look at this versus this now, aren't we? We know we've got modular striping again. So if this is 2, this is 5. So the sum 2, 5, 3. So the sum is 5 or 11. 11. 5 might be difficult. Ah, you can just do it, can you? You rotten thing. That's very annoying. That's very annoying. I wonder if there's a way I can rule that out. Okay, so let me try and take this slowly. What I'm saying is, as usual, we've got these vertical modular dominoes. That's the way that these columns break down. So if this was 2, this can't be 3, obviously, because 2 and 3 are consecutive. So this is 2, this is 5, and that makes this 3. So this diagonal here would add up to 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, what happens if this is 6? Well, then this can't be 5, so the 5 must go here. So the sum of these two squares is 11. So it's quite extreme. This diagonal is either adding up to 5, and there's only one way that can work. That can't work. Ah, I've done it. Sorry, it's much more obvious than I'd realised. Yeah, this can't be a 1, because that square is a 1. What's this digit? It cannot be consecutive with 4, so it cannot be 3 or 5. That is a 1, and that is beautiful, this 1, because that's knocking 1 out of this square, which is 3 or 5, and now I can't make this diagonal add up to only 5, because even if I minimise these with double 2, because this can't be a 1, I cannot keep it down low enough. So, well, and this is a 4, because we know 1 and 4 always sit above each other in modular pairs. So that's weird. That's sort of deadly pattern that gets resolved by the weirdities of the world. But more importantly, we've now worked out this is not 5. So this is 11. So that's got to be 6. That's got to be 5. That's a 2. That's a 3. Oh. That's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. Now, this is probably all resolved now. Let's just do Sudoku for a moment or two at least, and then we can worry about how this is all going to finish. So 1, 3, and 5. That's not 5. That's not 3. We knew, didn't we, that this had to have a 4 on it. Yeah. Whether that's 3 or 5, it has to have 4 on it. So that's 4, which means this is 1. Okay, so this is adding up to 11. Minus 4 is 7. So these add up to 7, which means this is 4 or 2. Oh, whoopsie, whoopsie. This square is 4 or 2. But by Sudoku, it's 4. I could just do that, couldn't I? I could just do Sudoku. That would be more sensible. Double 4 is 8, so this is a 3, which goes above a 6 by modularity, which forces this to be 5, forces this to be 3. And we must now, I think, so this is 2 and 4, that's 6, that's 2. That's 4, that's 6, that's 3, that's 1. I'm just unwinding. I'm sort of torn, but in my brain, I'm sort of half doing it by modularity here and half doing it by Sudoku, which is probably not how I'm meant to do it, but it is the way I'm doing it. So now I can do Sudoku on this column, and it's just falling apart. It's just finished, isn't it? What a weird and wonderful puzzle that is. There we go. I think that's right. Let's see. Yes. 40 minutes. Well, it's magnificent. How many people? 48 in 20 days. So it's been around for a while. It's very clever. It's super interesting, that, because it's sort of, it's bonkers. It's just bizarre. You have to, I think, to solve it, you have to understand or learn about how digits work with non-consecutive constraints, and it's very, very constrained, and then you can force this weird thing in the columns where every pair within a box has to be in a vertical relationship on the keyboard, and then that seemed to cause parity being the same, across the boxes, and I needed that deduction to extend this out. And once we extended this out, it became slightly easier. But my favourite bit of the puzzle, I have to say, was the bit where I was a bit daft. I was going to say stupid. Stupid's probably a little harsh, but daft. Let's use that. Because once I've proved that it sort of does this roping, I know these are different. I know this is odd, and I should immediately then have grokked that I could have worked out how it worked across this diagonal. I did it in the end. Anyway, what a puzzle, hey? Let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.